Well, it's an interesting question. When did I start working as a business growth advisor? Because it happened by accident, really. Um, in the early 2000s, I owned a board game manufacturing and distribution company, which I eventually sold. And I've got a background in finance. Spent years as a chartered accountant and ran screaming from that because it was a horrendous life. Um, and I started off doing freelance finance director work, freelance CFO work. And that led really into becoming more of a sort of holistic business advisor. And I suppose that's a business growth advisor, although I didn't call it that in those days. So really from about the early to mid 2000s, I've been doing this. I decided to join Elephant's Child because a friend of mine who's a St James's Place partner introduced me to Richard Murray. We started talking, and the idea was that I could possibly help out with finance roles and that type of thing. And as we were talking, in the end, he surprised me by saying, would I want to become an elephant? I wasn't sure about my answer to that, so I had to think about it. And in the end said yes. The real reason is that we're very much aligned on our approach to clients. It's a very client-centric approach. And it very much aligns with how I work. It's all about the relationship with the client. So it's a match made in heaven. Engaging with clients for me is always about the personal relationship. That is everything. All of my clients I like and they like me, or I hope they like me. But I think they do. They stick with me anyway. And it's all about that personal relationship. Nothing really else matters. Working with SMEs, you're always dealing with the business owner in some respects. There may be a board around them, but it's basically the business owner. And you have to get on because you're giving, at times, quite tough advice, and they have to respect you, and they have to trust what you say. And that all comes from that personal relationship. Having said that, the COVID crisis has been very difficult in that we've all been working over video. So in some ways, it's harder to make those relationships. You can still do it, but it's a bit harder to do. It takes a bit more time. But the principles are exactly the same. Companies I enjoy working with, it's not about the size, it's not about the sector. It's about the attitude of the business owner, very much so. If they've got an attitude for change and they want to do things and they will engage, then that's what it's about. So it doesn't really matter what they do. It doesn't really matter what size they are. If they've got that wish to do things, then we can work together. When I started working as a business growth advisor in the sort of mid 2000s, I did a lot of work in business turnaround, and the challenge there is clear and everybody can see it. And I worked with a lot of companies that were heading towards administration insolvency. The bulk of those we did turn around. We put them on a different path. And it's nice to say that some of them are still going now. Obviously, some go by the wayside, but some are still going now, and there have been jobs saved and jobs created through that. I'll give you an example of a client I'm working with at the moment. I started working with them about 4 years ago. They're in the energy consultancy sector. They wanted to grow aggressively and exit after 5 years. We're now 4 years down the line, and they still want to grow and exit aggressively after 5 years. But what's happened there is that the people weren't right, the management structure wasn't right, and the corporate structure wasn't right. And so in those intervening years, we've sorted all of that out. They've now got an excellent management team, a great board with various non-executives in place. And it looks like now they will achieve that. And I think the biggest success story there is throughout this COVID crisis, they have exceeded budget and they're going to exceed budget for this year. And I think that's fantastic.